Welcome to Sunday night version of goldenblack.com chat. I think Purdue Union Club Hotel, from an advertiser standpoint, all over our shows today, as they obviously sponsor Brian and rap video, etc. And after the Purdue men's basketball game. But the news of the day, everybody knows this by now. Purdue has reached an agreement hiring Barry Odom from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Missouri also was where he coached, and he'll be announced on Tuesday at 9:00 in the morning, much to Brian Neubert's chagrin. The timing of all that, but we'll deal with that, I guess, when we get there. Tom, I'll start with you. I mean, the end of a long road here. I guess. I mean, it went on for 7 or 8 days and trying to make sense of all of this. Now that it's done, I'll give you the first word of your thoughts as you look at the hire and what may be next for Purdue football.
Yeah, 7 scant days, really.
Yeah,
you knew it was going to be quick. We knew the sense of urgency with the transfer portal opening up tomorrow, December 9th. Everybody else can jump in the portal. Now guys can come out of the portal too. So Purdue needed somebody sitting in that big leather chair in the Kozich Football Performance Complex. They got a guy, Barry Odom. Has a little Dan Campbell in him, doesn't he? The old Detroit Lions coach.
He does. That reminded me of him.
He's a real throwback, tough guy. Played linebacker at Mizzou from 96 to 99 from Ada, Oklahoma. The guy who's still relatively young, and to be on his third, prominent head coaching job is impressive. So, yeah, there's obviously a lot of reasons to be optimistic for Purdue here. I think we all knew Bobinski wanted a proven head coach. He certainly got that in Barry Odom. 4 years at Mizzou and 2 years in UNLV. I think you got a personality that fits the school. Real blue collar guy, and just the mentality, I think, of the university. Everything's earned. Just a hard worker. Not a lot of flash. He's about substance. So again, and in that sense, I think he fits too. The only thing for me was the fact he's a defensive guy. And again, Bobinski said he wasn't going to get hung up on what side of the ball somebody came from. He certainly shouldn't have, right? You don't want to eliminate potentially good coaches because maybe they're not from the offensive side of the ball. So he felt comfortable with Barry Odom. And again, now all the fascinating storylines continue to unfold, right? What's the staff going to look like? Who's coming with them? Who's going to get out of the portal? On and on it goes to the questions sort of spill out of your head. I've already started a long list of questions I've got. So again, we've only just begun, guys. Like you said, Alan, Tuesday, we're going to get our first introduction to Barry Odom.
Yeah. Brian, we've obviously been around him a little bit, certainly seen Purdue play them twice, they being Missouri back in 2017. Jeff Brown wins 35-3, I should say. An impressive performance in that game over Barry Odom's team the following year. In the controversial Jared Sparks, we were talking about that the other day, that touchdown that wasn't, and Purdue loses that game to Missouri in a game that couldn't stop Missouri down the stretch. But again, just anecdotal. What were your thoughts when that name came across the wire? We certainly had been looking at him all week, but when it came to fruition, you had basketball you were pondering, I know, but what were your thoughts?
Yeah, just a proven guy. I mean, somebody who's done the job before, somebody who has experience, who knows how to run a major operation. I think I'm done at this point in my life talking about this is a great hire, this is not a great hire, because nobody knows what the job looks like anymore, because it's essentially professional sports now in the way these programs have to be managed. And like what we all know about professional sports is that all coaches are basically hired to be fired. So who knows how this is going to work out, but Odom is, obviously a proven guy. He's got valuable experience that, Purdue has lacked here the last couple of years. I think, him being a defensive coach is offset a bit by whatever system he's going to run with his people, provided his people come with him. The game that they won in Ross-Ade Stadium, remember, they scored like 1 million points.
Yeah, it's 40 to 38.
That was the night game that essentially got Purdue David Bell. because he went and watched that game and how exciting it was, and two teams throwing the ball everywhere, and that was it. And I mean, he had Drew Lock at Missouri, and that's obviously a pretty good deal. At UNLV, I like the fact that, superficially, he's dealt with some NIL crap,
Right.
some NIL drama. He's had
Major drama, yeah, this year.
He's had to recruit the portal, and he's won anyway. Despite that in-season disruption with his quarterback, and so at a place like UNLV, you got to do it kind of the way everybody's got to be doing it from here on out in terms of getting transfers in there. The NIL situation there obviously was something that they were. I don't know how good their program was or anything like that, but it became a hot topic. They had to deal with some of the landmines that come with it. So there's some valuable experience there, it would seem like.
Yeah. And I'm trying to unding my messages, which I think I've done. But by the way, Mike Carmen didn't join us tonight, even though Brian Neubert's coughing a bit, but he's a little bit under the weather, and so he sends we send our best to Mike to hope he's getting better, but and he is, I think, from that standpoint. But Tom, any thoughts? I know, again, we haven't even had the press conference yet, so we haven't had a chance to talk to Barry Odom, but there's been a lot of talk about his offensive coordinator and defensive coordinators. And I don't know how much time you've had to even look into this in terms of what they bring and there's been some talk about that. And obviously the need for, Purdue's going to need to rebuild its roster from top to bottom. It's clear depending on who, if anybody comes back from the portal. Bunch of questions there, but any initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we're just going to have to wait and see here. I mean, nobody knows at this point. Barry's going to need some boots on the ground here. And they've still got a bowl game to play, too. They named a interim head coach today to kind of get them through their bowl game. So UNLV's got to finish up their season. And I'm sure, obviously, Stafford's got to stay back and finish up the season for UNLV. So Dale Alexander's the guy. He's the interim head coach there. So, yeah, I mean, who will come with him right away to again really dig into this transfer portal recruiting? That seems to be, or it's got to be, I would think, the biggest priority at this point. You still want to, of course, look at the high school kids from the class of 2025 for that second signing period in February. But again, it's all about the portal right now for Purdue. It's got to be, I would think. I think there are upwards of 20 Boilermakers in the portal now. I think a lot of those guys are willing to come back. They want to see what's going to happen. Well, now they have an answer, at least as far as who the head coach is. We'll have to find out again who the coordinators are going to be, who the assistant coaches are going to be to answer some more questions. And again, I think there's really four primary guys you got to get back for sure if you're Purdue. And one of them hasn't jumped in the portal yet, Devin Mockabee. He hasn't jumped in, but we've seen Max Clare, Dylan Thieneman, and Will Helt jump in. So they'll be playing more about that later. And, again, knock down the one assistant coach everybody's already buzzing about, and I think you're obviously alluding to is the offensive coordinator there out in Vegas, Brennan Marion.
Yeah.
He runs what they call a go-go offense. Been very
Steve
prolific.
Mendel already asked, but go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
Yeah, he's been very prolific. And I talked to a guy I've known for years, Mark Anderson. He works for the AP now in Las Vegas. He worked for the Journal Review for years. And I'm going to maybe post that tonight, a Q&A with him, just trying to get his viewpoints on Odom and his tenure in Vegas. And we talked about the offense. And he said it's really, it's a quick tempo as you would expect, no huddle. And it's really, he said, based around the ground game. A lot of RPOs, and then they really ran the ball well to set up the pass there. That's their go-go offense. So, and he's the guy, too, that Mark mentioned was at the center of that controversy this fall with their transfer quarterback, Tyler Slutka.
Yeah.
Who, of course, was promised a sum of money to transfer to Vegas, was not delivered, and famously became a national story when he walked away from his team. Well, it was Marion, the guy who supposedly promised him that money, didn't tell Barry Odom or anybody else about it. And Mark Anderson says that created some strife within the program, as you can imagine. But to their credit, guys, Slutka left, and they kept on rolling, man.
Yeah,
unbelievable 10-win season. So, yeah, He's the one that's most famous there. Ricky Logo's a guy who's been around a long time. Looks like they have Rip Shear's son on the staff as well. And, Mark also said that they were very good at special teams. That wasn't just lip service. Very good at special teams. A 4-3 defense, he said, too, that like to take chances and would gamble. And, again, that's Barry Odom's bailiwick. He's a DC at Mizzou, DC at Memphis, DC at Arkansas. That's his side of the ball. But, again, he's not going to call the defense. So, again, it's kind of fun watching these things come together. And Purdue is just beginning trying to put this piece together as far as what this program is going to look like moving forward.
Yeah. Certainly a storyline. It will be a question. And like I said, there'll be plenty of, I don't know if drama is the right word, but it is going to be a storyline watching coming up, to say the least. A question here. How do you address the naysayers and expectations for Purdue? An interesting one, because I don't think I think again, it's hard to tell. And we were all at the basketball game today, and I thought it was relatively well received in our world. There's always going to be naysayers, but I thought one thing that's important, again, and I tend to look at things the way Purdue has not been ranked in the top 20 in college football since 2003. I'm saying at the end of the season, right?
At the end of the season, yeah.
At the end of the season,
yeah.
This guy took UNLV into the top 20. Now, I understand. I'm just saying, I'm not saying, and we're not talking about home run hires and all that. I'm not saying that at all, because we'll find out. We know, as Brian said and articulated well, who the heck knows in this new world of college coaches what is going to happen. But this guy being Barry Odom, did get his team to a pretty high level. And, they got beat by Boise 21-7 on, was it Friday night, but had a really good year, and I don't know what bowl they're going to end up in. But my point is, it's, Purdue fans need to understand this might have been as good as it can get too. We don't know, but I don't know who else you would expect to bring in. I think this is a guy that yes, we saw that he lost his gig at 4 years at Missouri, but we also saw his team come in and beat Purdue. So, Brian, I mean, just reading the temperature of all this, or what Purdue needs to. Purdue, it's such a funny situation because you had to sell out crowds this year. There's obviously a lot of emphasis on being able to retain that fan base the way you want to. I know it's too early to say if this guy's going to do that. I don't know enough about his personality. Is he going to be able to be his personality to be if he can go out and win some football games, which will not be easy next year, not only with the schedule, but with the roster. But what are your thoughts on that whole situation and just expectations in general?
Well, I think it's very important that fans like the coach. I mean, you need engaged fan base. You need them with their wallets open, preferably. But I think that if he's a humble guy, if he fields a disciplined, hardworking football team, I think people will respond to that. That's one of the big keys in all this too. Is Purdue's last two coaching tenures have been riddled with discipline issues. And by discipline issues, I don't mean dudes getting arrested. I mean, dudes jumping off sides on 3rd and 2 and personal fouls and, constant flags on special teams and stuff like that. Offensive line penalties, derailing drives. And I think if Barry Odom can just field a football team that plays the game the right way and is a likable guy, you might have somebody fans really respond to here. And I say that acknowledging they really responded to Ryan Walters too. They showed up in year 1. They kept showing up in year 2. And I think the fact that they showed up is the reason why Purdue felt like they had no choice at the end of the day but to make a change, because they didn't want to alienate those people who were so loyal during some really lousy times for Purdue football.
Yeah, well said. And Mike Levinsky made that very, very clear last Monday. Tom, any sense, and I don't know in your days of running around, but also with the gentleman you talked about in Vegas in terms of what kind of guy he is, what's his personality like? I don't remember much from him, his sideline demeanor or any of that stuff one time I saw him in person, which was in Ross-Ade Stadium in 2018. But any sense to that?
Yeah, kind of like I said off the jump, he's just a real, almost like your next door neighbor guy,
Yeah.
not to stereotype, but again, I think of Dan Campbell, guy driving his pickup truck wearing his Wrangler jeans. Blue collar, tough. Like I said, he's a linebacker from Oklahoma. And like I said, I think he'll be a fit. This is a pretty blue collar university, I think. Kind of a tough, gritty school. Always considered, kind of a roll your sleeves up type of a place. You never feel like you're entitled at Purdue. You have to earn everything, and always kind of fighting up. And I think Barry Odom is going to give this program a lot of fight, and so I think that's a good thing. But somebody told me tonight they thought that he was involved with the Central Florida job, and also we think he was involved at West Virginia too.
Right,
big connection to Ren Baker, the AD there. He worked with at Mizzou, worked with at Memphis too. But Purdue got him. Maybe as time goes on, we'll be able to get a little intel on this search, how involved he was in Orlando and Morgantown. Who else maybe was even on the radar for Purdue? Who knows? But then that can be down the road kind of stuff. So. For Barry Odom, I'm sure when he sat across from Babinski, he had some pointed questions, guys. And your thoughts on this? I think your first question for Barry Odom is NIL. What is my situation there? And he must have heard something he liked. So again, that's going to be so imperative here to build this program up. Without a doubt, I think that's an understatement. Everybody knows that. And again, we'll be interested to see if Purdue is indeed competitive. And then what some of these players look like that they get out of the portal. And more importantly, guys, if they can keep some of these star players that jump in the portal and bring them back to West Lafayette too.
Yeah. And as a reminder that NIL is still going to be the Wild West at least till June 30th before the House settlement, if and it's expected to be the rule of the land by then. But that's still going to be a factor. I think everybody pretty much agrees. That there's still going to be a big factor even after that. Brian, you had your hand look like it was halfway. Did you have a comment on that?
Well, Purdue's come out and said we're going the full $20+ million a year in revenue sharing. That's a pretty big deal, and that's commitment that should have been the first words out of Purdue's mouth to all of these coaches. However many Purdue looked at was our university has made a commitment. And it's my understanding the university is helping the athletic department with this. They're making some concessions.
They are.
That are going to give Purdue's athletic department that full access to that, whatever the number is. I've been saying 22 million. I heard last week
20.5,
20 and a half or something like that. But that's a pretty big deal. And I've kind of assumed all along that everyone's going to do it because it's just the cost of doing business nowadays. But can everyone do it? I don't know the answer to that question. So maybe some of these coaching candidates talk to West Virginia, talk to Central Florida, whoever it might be, and they didn't get answers in terms of that $20.5 million. That's going to be so important here. The NIL piece of it's important too. That's now excess. That's now on top of the revenue sharing stuff. Certainly important, but I think the base salary stuff is probably more important. That had to be a really big selling point for Purdue with Barry Odom and with any other coach they talked to. How many that was, I have no idea. Tom might, I don't.
We can get into that a little bit. I do think it's interesting because West Virginia, for example, is having such fiscal responsibilities for issues from a university standpoint. I don't know that that's a factor. Yes, there are, we've all kind of assumed that everybody was going to do it in the Power Four at 20.5, and whether that's actually going to be reality, I don't know. I do know that, Purdue, in an interview with Mike Berghoff 2 months ago, talked about, they're going to work on some things with respect to the debt, with respect to Ross-Ade Stadium, and maybe that being relaxed. They're obviously going to pay the debt, but the university is going to help with that. That would get them about $16 million of that 20.5 or whatever that number actually is. So it is an interesting thing. I think too that in Tom's point, I think there's other parts you're going to still have to be in the game, and however that from a market standpoint and give opportunities to above and beyond that, one would think. But who the heck knows on some of this stuff. Tom and Brian, we did we obviously vetted about everybody we could vet. I mean, if that's the right word, and we certainly looked at a lot of people. If people had access to our texts, we would have some interesting. Just because last night there was not bouncing some names around because we didn't know. We knew that Odum was in the game. Certainly, did not know. No one was telling us that this was all going to be done the way it was. Though Mike Babinski told us last week it was going to be done in a week, and we had some intel that said that that was going to happen and stay on schedule. But you guys have both been through a lot of these things in your 10 years. Was this one different? Maybe it was a little bit. Purdue's good at keeping it close to the vest. Mike Babinski seemed to be a little bit of a lone ranger on this, maybe more than usual. That's easier to keep things secret, but I was interested in your thoughts on just the other folks that we had talked about, but also just the process.
Yeah, I mean, nothing. These are. I mean, the template's pretty basic with these things. And yeah, it kind of last night it seemed like it was focusing on Barry Odom. There seemed to be some movement for Chuck Martin late.
Yeah,
and maybe he was really going to be
from Miami.
Then there was some type of a mystery candidate. It seemed like, and again, of course, it circles back and ends up being Barry Odom. So, yeah, there were some guys. Tyson Helton in Western Kentucky thought at one point he was really going to be a guy of interest, and a day or two ago, it seemed like that wasn't going to be the case. Tyson really wasn't going to be involved. We knew Charles Huff at Marshall was probably headed to Southern Miss, and that indeed is happening as we thought. John Summerall, Tulane could still be involved at North Carolina. I'm not sure how deep they may have ever gotten with John Summerall. I'm not sure. Yeah. So, yeah, those were some guys, that came up. And just off the top of my head here, I'm sure I'm forgetting some. But yeah, I kind of think maybe Babinski had his guy a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe he had this thing sewn up. We won't know. Yeah, but again, the one thing it does is I think Reiner talked about this off the top. It gives fans hope. And I think hope had just been totally siphoned from the program by the end of last year. They needed something to be hopeful for. Now they've got something to be hopeful for. And they have a new coach, a new staff, and a reason to be optimistic here. And I think that's what the athletic department needed. And again, Barry Odom, a guy who was recruited by Larry Smith to Mizzou. You guys may remember Larry Smith. He's not dead, but Larry Smith, tough coach, man, was at USC. And then, of course, Gary Pinkel. Gary Pinkel was his mentor. If anybody knows Gary Pinkel, type of guy.
Very good football coach.
There's another guy, that's Steely Glare, that really, really helped Barry Odom cut his teeth as a head coach, gave him a chance to come in on off-field roles in Columbia and work his way up the line. Barry Odom's paid his dues, man. He's a young guy, but he paid his dues working up his way up the ladder, and obviously impressed a lot of people to rise as quickly as he did. So, and again, real quick to the recruits. There's only like 5 or 6 kids who signed last week. I texted all of them. They're all fired up. They're going to come. Brandon Gorn, of course. Cameron Gorn, who didn't sign. They're still kind of waiting to see a little bit here. But again, I'll be interested to see how deep they go on these high school kids. If they add 5 or 6 more guys to this class or not, or if they just focus on the portal, it's going to be interesting to see how this roster comes together.
Yeah, that's going to be a storyline. Brian?
Yeah, I just want to say something about the process. I mean, I covered the Jeff Brom search, and Babinski started on Jeff Brom, had Jeff Brom the whole time, ended on Jeff Brom. There was some stuff at the end where some other jobs opened up, and there was probably a few days there where it was a little bit up in the air whether he was actually going to sign.
Mm-hmm. It was.
It ended right where it started. He did sign. Babinski had his guy like before he even fired Darrell Hazel. It is very possible that Barry Odom was Mike Babinski's guy since like November, for all we know. I mean, he had to be laying the groundwork for this after like Notre Dame and Oregon and stuff like that. And every AD's got a list, and there are ways to kind of vet things and even make third-party contact with people. I have no idea when Purdue would have first contacted Barry Odom, but it is very possible this started with Barry Odom and this ended with Barry Odom. In fact, I would consider that to be likelier than not. The the thing with these coaching searches in the court of public opinion is everybody thinks they're chaos, because the truth is right here and discussion is like this all around it. And
yeah, it is. It's what fuels us.
Information filters to us, out of sync with when things actually occurred or what's actually going on. And it always looks like chaos. It always looks like drama, but sometimes it really is as simple as, this is the guy we want. This is the guy we got,
Yeah.
That might very well be the case here. I hopefully we get an explanation on Tuesday, but very rarely do ADs say, hey, we interviewed 10 guys.
Yeah.
No, or anything like
that. Or somebody that finished second. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
go ahead, Brian.
When they did hire Braum, I had Braum so early in that. I really had tunnel vision on that. And I didn't know at the time Joe Moorhead was all lined up to be hired in case Braum fell through. And so I kind of had a blind spot there for plan B. I found
we didn't really know. We didn't know how.
I found out the day of the press conference to announce Jeff Braum while I was pulling into the airport in Indianapolis. I won't say who called to tell me, but it was I didn't know if it was Braum or somebody else. So, but it was Braum from day one. Braum was the guy they wanted. Braum was the guy they pursued. Braum was the guy they bent over backwards for in terms of giving him everything he needed to come. And Braum was the guy they ultimately got.
Yeah, I think that is true. Though and things can get dicey in the last minute, and I get that. But I have that sense. Tom, you were just reading I guess you were at the volleyball match on Thursday night and said, "Yeah, here he looks." And you wrote that, and you said, "Hey, this looks like a guy that might have his man." We didn't know you didn't know that, but you're old enough to see somebody that. And Mike's pretty professional in these deals. I get that, but I'm sure he's glad it's over, and I'm sure you'll hear on Tuesday in spades that this is a guy they wanted and who they targeted, because that's what they tend to do from that standpoint. But good for him, but and good for Mike Babinski that they got this done. It was an interesting, the players were different. Certainly, Mitch Daniels was involved in 2016 and very much involved in the Jeff Braum deal. As I understand it, and certainly Mike Berghoff, who's will be retiring from the board of trustees. It was unclear to me they certainly Mung Chang, Purdue's new president, or not so new president, but Purdue's current president, was involved as well. But it's always interesting to know these are good books people can write after the fact, I suppose, in terms of if they ever choose to disclose this. But it'll be an interesting thing that we'll probably not find the answers to right away, because that's how this works. From that standpoint. Tom, anything else you want to add to the fray, and we'll give us a wrap. Go ahead, man.
Just trying to have some fun when I write.
Yeah.
But anyway, how about talking money? How about talking salaries? Not to compare anything to what's going on in Bloomington, but a little FYI, Kurt Signetti got bumped. He got his salary doubled. He's making first year $7 million a year now. And the salary pool got bumped to $11 million for his assistant coaches on and off the field. Huge. I think that's double what Walters had for his off-field staff. So there you go. I'll be interested to see what the salary terms are for Coach Odom, how big his budget is for his staff as well. If it's anywhere close to what IU's got, probably not, of course, but maybe so. Maybe so. How long is his contract? Probably 5 years, and all those types of details. So we'll see. Like I said, that was something I'd written down. Kind of eager to get a look at what those things are, guys. And yeah, just we'll wait and see. You said the public can come to this event on Tuesday in Mackey Arena. Then Barry Odom's going to peel off and go down to the interview room. That's where guys like us three can grill him with all these hard, piercing questions and get to the bottom of things and see where it goes. But yeah, and then off we go, right? And then we'll start seeing all types of social media stuff about transfer portal commitments and whatnot. And I was told too this year, schools can tweet out transfer portal commitments before guys even enroll. So we may see some of that stuff popping up before our very eyes before it ever gets back to us. We have a chance to investigate. But I don't want to get off to a deep rabbit hole on that stuff. Nonetheless, an exciting time for Purdue. I think they have a guy who fits, and like Brian said, nobody knows if these things work out. I was joking earlier. Lincoln Riley was a home run hire at USC, and Scott Frost was a can't-miss guy at Nebraska. There's no way Scott Frost was going to fail at Nebraska. And how's Luke Fickell working out in Wisconsin?
Billy
That
Napier.
was a perfect fit, wasn't it? So,
although he had a hell of a run there at the end.
Yeah.
My point is nobody.
Tom
knows.
Herman.
Yeah, Tom Herman.
Herman was he was gonna rule Austin, Texas, wasn't he?
Yep.
The Longhorns, hook 'em horns, and yeah. So again, we'll have to wait and see. I know it's just human nature to want to know what's going to happen in life, and it's hard to deal with the unknown. But this is a small inconvenience in our lives, right? To see if Purdue football works. And last question, Alan talked about the schedule next year that looms and the challenges there. I'm
going to close my eyes now if I'm Purdue, but go ahead.
I think they have USC coming here. They go to Washington. I think I mentioned Michigan, Ohio State. They go to South Bend. How about that? So this schedule is, some people think every bit as tough, if not tougher than last year's schedule. So there's certainly
Penn State is not on that schedule.
I don't think Penn State's on.
Yeah.
It. But anyway, I'm pretty sure those are the highlights, and we'll see again. You can't shirk from a challenge, and that's certainly going to be a big one for the new staff.
By the way, Odom, at least if the internet can be believed, his salary $1.8 million at UNLV. Yeah. Of course, Ryan Walters is north of $4 million at Purdue, so it'll be interesting. It will be interesting to see what they disclose. We'll find that out at some point in time. But Odom, supposedly that was his figure, so a nice bump up to say the least from that standpoint. Brian, do you have your last word?
Yeah, no, I think Purdue pays what the job is worth.
Yeah.
I don't think they start people low and then give them incentives to move up. I think Babinski pays what it's worth. And obviously the football coach is one of the most important jobs on the whole campus. And, I think the thing that stood out to me about Babinski in terms of these situations is just how focused he is on his guy, how tight he keeps things in terms of his circle, and just how he goes for the jugular on who he wants and who he gets. I don't know what happened with the Walters search, but with Braum, it was, I want this guy. I'm putting everything into this guy, but I'm covering my you-know-what in case this falls through. But as it was explained to me by somebody who I got very lucky to come across during the Braum search, was Purdue gave him things that nobody else could offer. I don't know what that was. I'd imagine it probably involved his family and their involvement in the program, which, if that's what got Jeff Braum here, it was worth dealing with the drama, I guess. But I think Babinski's good at finding people's pressure points and going right at him and getting the guy he wants.
Yeah, the offer he could not refuse, right? And I think that was that. And I almost can assure you, right, Brian? I think that the family business came to West Lafayette and had success. Had enough, and we'll see how Barry Odom what he brings to the table. Gentlemen, thanks so much, Tom and Brian. Tom, your yeoman's work. There's still more to be had, I'm sure.
What does that mean?
Real quick on the
yeoman's.
On the family from Barry Odom, does have
Let Tom talk. Go ahead. He has important things to say. I don't.
Barry Odom's got a brother who's one of his recruiting guys, kind of heads that up. So I imagine he's coming. He also has two sons. One was on the team last year. He just signed his second son this last recruiting class. So could be a couple of sons coming here to West Lafayette, and his brother working for him too. But Brian, I don't think the drama is going to reach the Braum family level.
It's hard to do.
Let's hope not.
Yeah,
that would be pretty hard to do.
It made things fun and interesting. Well, I'll just leave it at that before I get myself in trouble.
Interesting for sure, but
interesting for sure.
All
right, it has been an interesting week, Brian. Give us one word. I know you've got your rap video on Purdue, Maryland. That was a knockdown, drag-out college basketball game today, but a big one for Purdue to win, because it shows that, and I haven't listened to your rap video yet, but there aren't going to be many easy games. You think about in the Big Ten this year, home or away. I think it seems to be the case.
Well, I thought this game, Purdue winning this game, I mean, Purdue should always win at home. That's what history tells us.
Yeah.
But Purdue had to fight like hell to get this one. I think what was significant was some things about Purdue got exposed in this game, things that Purdue's going to have to overcome all year long. How often has Purdue gone into basketball games the last 5 years as the smaller team?
Yeah.
You look down on that court today, you see Derek Queen and Julian Reese out there, and they made Purdue look small.
Yeah.
And that people don't do that to Purdue. Purdue does that to everybody else. So Purdue had to really, really go a little bit above and beyond from an energy perspective, from a physicality perspective, to kind of hang around on the glass and things like that. Second, I think Purdue really could use another ball handler right now. I think you're realizing how important Lance Jones was after Lance Jones has left, because your other guards now on the roster who you'd classify as ball handlers are freshmen, and they're looking like freshmen in some cases right now. And people are getting wise to that and really kind of going at, like CJ Cox. Not to pick on him, but anybody who watched the game saw that he was a little shook. 2 games in a row now. Purdue overcame those things, and that's pretty significant. And Purdue is fortunate to have Braden Smith, who is an absolute superhero in this game today.
Yeah.
24 points, 10 assists, 1 turnover that wasn't his fault. Made huge shots, made huge plays, really unlocked Trey Kaufman-Renn during that sequence in which Kaufman-Renn scored 10 points in a row against these giants that Maryland has. Just a really good, gritty win for Purdue. And Miles Colvin and Camden Heide again, just coming up big and really taking this team to another level of substance and winning quality.
All right. On that positive note, we'll bring this to an end. Gentlemen, again, thanks for all your work, Tom, especially all you've done here in this last period of time, and more to do. But we will be back Tuesday. Will be Gold and Black Radio, and that will cover also, I think we'll talk to Derek and do that after the press conference. We'll have Wednesday Night Live. Probably Tom and I will go back and talk a little. We may have the 3 of us on, talk a little deeper, what more comments. Certainly on the football situation, there'll be a lot of that as well. So a lot going on, though it is finals week at Purdue, and the Boilermakers in basketball don't take the court again until Saturday, I believe at noon, against Texas A&M, 22nd ranked Texas A&M. But there'll be a lot of football stuff. And a reminder, too, as I've been floating this thing across the gift subscriptions. We've appreciated all the people that have jumped on board here in the last week or so, and that's a credit to Tom and Brian, but we've been we're grateful for all the subscribers that have joined us. You can do that. It is a great idea. We're not just a YouTube channel, as Brian always says, and we would love to have you become a member. We have the gift subscription availability out there too. It is an easy deal to just get that gift for your Purdue fan in your house. So guys, have a great rest of the evening. All of you for watching and listening. If you missed part of it, we'll get it on the site as well. And we'll also have the audio version as well. So have a great rest of your Sunday evening, and take care all.